Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, using a career readiness app to teach health, financial literacy, digital literacy, and work-life skills. I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. And now I'm going to turn it over to our partners at Learning Upgrade. We have Drew Robinson and Vinod Lobo.
Thank you, Bethel, and thank you everyone for joining today. As Bethel mentioned, hope everyone's enjoying their summer as we transition out of a very, very busy and news-filled summer into the fall. We're excited to have everyone back in the classroom, being able to interact with teachers, and then today on the webinar, talk about our Career Readiness app, where we're going to introduce our brand new health, which is our newest course, and then our finance, digital literacy, and work-life skills. So for everyone in attendance today, usually with our partnership with CoABE, we always offer a free pilot license to anyone in attendance. But on top of that today, anybody that's used Learning Upgrade in the past, as well as new, we're offering special pricing. And a big reason for that is, we know the budget cuts and restraints and volatility that all of our programs have been dealing with over the last few months, especially a lot of uncertainty. And so we've been providing heavily discounted site-wide pricing to allow programs to serve students in a way that fits into their budget. And in most cases, they're saving thousands, a lot of programs, tens of thousands. So if you'd like to get a quote from us, reach out. Vinod will be managing the chat. And so he'll be putting in a link to get your free pilot. But then if you would also like some information on pricing, just let us know your enrollment or the target number of students you're looking to serve, and we'll be able to get you locked in with that special CoABE price. And again, for those that might be watching the recording, as long as you're a CoABE member watching this webinar, you can get that pricing, but it won't be for other programs, just for CoABE members that are attending or watching this webinar. You can also scan this QR code, so if you'd like to get started with our pilot right away, you can fill out the form there. But Vinod will be using the chat to enter any of the links that I talk about. And so just a quick one on that. Chat will be for feedback, so feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know where you are watching from, or if you have any feedback in real time. If you do have questions for the webinar, you can use the Q&A chat, and Vinod will be answering questions there. We'll also be able to take a break where Vinod will jump in the middle, and we can go over any questions that might be of relevance to everyone on the call. So again, introduce yourself in the chat. Vinod will be adding links there, so keep an eye on the chat. And then if you have questions pertaining to the webinar or anything that we're going over today, make sure to use the Q&A. It just really helps us keep track of the questions as they come in, and it ensures that we don't get those skipped over, because sometimes things move quickly in the chat and it can be easy to miss a question. When you use the Q&A, we can make sure that we get all of those answered. Okay, so a brief introduction. Today we'll be giving an introduction on Learning Upgrade for those that are unfamiliar. The focus, though, will be on those career readiness courses that we have in the app. We'll take a close look at the app, at the student experience, a very brief look at our learning management system, really just going over how students get started, how you add these courses. We'll take a look at our deployment models, and so different programs have different needs, and so we'll take a look at how different programs utilize our app in the classroom, in a blended setting, or in a completely remote setting. And then we'll talk about getting started. So again, all of you in attendance today will get access to that free license, but we'll take a look at what that looks like as we transition into the fall. So today it's Vinod and I, and we'll be taking you through all of our career readiness courses. And a introduction on Learning Upgrade will be at the beginning here. So for those that aren't familiar, our goal is really just helping organizations deliver life-changing education. So most of us that have heard of Learning Upgrade, in adult ed, will be through our English, our ESL, our math, ABE, HSE, primarily with GED on the test prep side. Today we're going over career readiness, but I know a lot of you are at programs that have needs across every single one of these content areas. So even though the focus today is on career readiness, through your pilot license and that discounted pricing that I talked about earlier, your program and your class gets access to everything. So that's going to be all of our English ESL content, all of our math from basic up through algebra, our test prep for GED and HiSET. We also have TOEFL and IELTS prep for students that are moving towards language proficiency. And then for those of you that have civics or citizenship as a part of your ESL or maybe standalone, we also have a fantastic citizenship course that assists students that are pursuing naturalization. So all of these courses are going to be available to you with your pilot license. We won't be going over those today, but just so you know that, hey, if you do want to, make this accessible to other teachers at your site, if you're a director at a program and you'd like to use one app to cover a lot of different classes and content areas, you will have access to everything that we offer. So with Learning Upgrade, we have these three core components. So today our focus is going to be on the Breakthrough app, dialing in on our career readiness side. What makes Learning Upgrade special is we use songs, video, games, and animation to teach. And that's what we have is binge learning. So students need time on task. Since we use a lot of engaging format to teach, students binge learn multiple hours a day, late into the night. And because it's available on any web-enabled device, they can log in at your computer lab on site, then they can pick up right where they left off on a personal device at home. And that time on task is what drives 4x learning speed when paired with your in-class instruction. Really accelerates student growth. On the learning management system side, we've made things as simple and easy to use as possible. So in most cases, a teacher, a volunteer, a tutor, a staff member, minimum of 1:50 ratio. A lot of our programs much higher than that, 1:100, 1:200. So the focus here is it's not a heavy lift. Some LMSs require massive amounts of training and a lot of work for the instructors. And our goal is to make this as frictionless as possible for you to get started. And then at the top left, you'll see they're free to start, very affordable to grow. And this is allowing our programs to really scale up, 10x learners, but more importantly, especially in these times of every program needing to be budget conscious, with programs like Learning Upgrade, that really allows you to provide these resources to every single student, but have money to keep professional development, keep additional staff, and really make sure that you're able to stay within these difficult financial times that we're dealing with here. So a little bit about Learning Upgrade. We've served over 3.5 million students. Most of you in Adult Ed will have heard of us from the X Prize, and so that was the Adult Literacy X Prize to see if a program or a company could create an app that would get measurable gains in Adult Ed. They used CASAS as a pre and post test for that. And long story short, we were the co-grand prize winners for having the highest CASAS gains in a 6-month field test. It was the largest field test ever done, 12,000 adult learners. And again, that ESL component of the app won't be covering today, but it is available to all in attendance. It's a solution that's great for all ages. And so for students that maybe left high school early and are pursuing the HSE route in their late teens, early 20s, it's a fantastic solution. We also work with libraries that serve senior citizens, and it's a great solution from early education all the way up to senior citizens. Big reason for that is the way we design our app. Very little digital literacy skills are needed to get started. It's very intuitive, streamlined, and so they don't require any training to download the app and get started right away. It meets all the federal standards as well. Again, this is going to be what separates us from some language acquisition apps like a Duolingo or Rosetta Stone Babel, is it does meet all the federal standards. If you have any questions on that, you can visit our courses page. Vinod can share a link to that in the chat, and that'll have a lot of those PDFs and alignments that you can view. We use text message, WhatsApp, and email for quick integration on student onboarding. You don't have to use that. You can still print off one-pagers that have the students' usernames and passwords. But for a lot of our programs, you already have student contact information. So we make it really easy. From our LMS, you can upload a spreadsheet, do push notifications to your students. They'll get a link to download the app, they'll get their username and password, and they can get started right away. And then, as I mentioned, all of the content areas will be available to you: English, math, GED, digital literacy, finance, work life, citizenship, and then our newest health literacy course. So with that, we're going to get started as we transition into covering our career readiness and job readiness courses. So for job skills, educational institutions are preparing students with knowledge for jobs in a workplace that is changing by the second, and all of us are experiencing this in real time. So career readiness, the aim here is to develop skills for professional success and also ease that transition from student to employee as they leave your program and get into their first job, or they set a goal to improve their earnings. So a new job, we want to make sure that we're easing that transition. And the big one is really to optimize their success. And career readiness can help ensure success in the workplace, which is fantastic. It can also improve the student experience in your classroom. So we're teaching students how to manage their careers early and then equip them to apply those skills that they've learned. So preparing students for the road ahead, how do we do that? So career and self-development, we have a lot of lessons on communication, development of critical thinking, focusing on lessons with inclusion and equity, leadership skills, professionalism, teamwork. Digital literacy is going to do a deep dive on all technology that they need to succeed in the workplace now. Financial literacy, time management is a big one. This starts in the classroom. Stress management, can be a difficult thing when you're working, maybe a family, and you're going to school. So making sure that they have the outlets there, and then emotional intelligence. So here's a look at the app with all of the courses. And so as you'll see, students do have access to our English and ESL track, basic through 6 at the top. All of these lessons, math and English, are 60 full lessons long, 1 through 59, cover full levels. So for English, it's going to be 1 full NRS level for one of these English courses. Today, we're going to be focusing on the bottom left here. So digital literacy, work-life skills, finance, and then our newest one, which is health literacy. So this just went online this week with all of the courses. And so for those of you that are getting started with your pilot through this webinar, you'll be some of the first programs that'll have access to this new course. So first one we're going to cover is the work-life skills. So for those that maybe don't know, intuitively, what is a work-life skill? These are going to be the soft skills needed for success on the job, at home, and at school. These are going to include communication, teamwork, self-awareness, social skills. So a lot of students come out of programs, come out of vocational training with the hard skills needed for a job. But where they tend to fall short is if they don't have the soft skills, the social skills, outside of the technical knowledge. And that's going to be what allows them to productively work, with a group of coworkers, with management. And those work-life skills are going to help people learn. Our work-life skills course is going to help these students learn these skills. And this is critical. It's a difficult thing to teach. We can teach the concepts, but what makes our app really special is we put students in situations with the practice questions that has them go through many case studies. So this is what you're experiencing. Maybe this is something that happened at a workplace. What's the appropriate way to respond? Or who is the appropriate person to reach out to at your company? So in the job market, teamwork and communication, we cover things like creating a resume, interviewing techniques, how to accept a job offer, interacting with management and coworkers. A big one is conflict resolution. What are the correct pathways to do that? Do you just send a text message to your manager airing your grievances? Probably not. You want to, maybe, craft an email and be professional in how you go about that. And then in the classroom, it's important as well. So we cover time management. A big one is education planning. This is something that'll be intuitive to everyone on this call. All of us have gone through a pretty standard, K-8 high school, moved into either community colleges or straight to a 4-year grad school, credentialing, especially in education, and then a lot of continued education as you continue your career. And so for a lot of that, we take for granted that we understand how that education planning works. But as you know, your students don't. So we want to make sure that they understand that it's important to set goals, but also to brainstorm and diagram exactly where they want to go, and that'll enable them to see how they get to where their plans are taking them. Same thing with careers. So career planning and goal setting, we cover effective writing and then navigating complex systems. So education and career are 2 very complex systems, and we want to make sure they understand what that looks like and how to optimize their chances of success in getting from where they are to where they want to go. So our approach to work-life skills, it's a 30-lesson course. And what makes this really nice is that for students that might not have the current English skills to, get into other work-life courses or get into their, goal job or dream job, they can go through our ESL English track, get up to full speed there. Same thing with math, go through the HSE track, and then when they're ready for work-life skills, take that transition from student to employee. This course will be ready. For most of you here on this call, you already have students that are ready for this. They're at that point, and so they can jump straight into our work-life skills. So, what makes our course different? So, big one is high interest. So again, songs, video, games, and animation to teach. But the bigger one is that they get to answer a lot of practice questions. So again, for soft skills, they can be really hard to assess. They can be very hard to practice if you're not in the workplace. And that's not always the appropriate time to practice these brand new skills that you're picking up. And so with our work life skills course, again, we're providing them with situational problems, situational challenges. Then they get questions and they can go through and answer these multiple choice questions, these drag and drops, and get instant feedback. So all of our practice questions have built-in feedback and remediation. So if they do get something incorrect, it's not like a static workbook where it's like, hey, maybe you get answers for the odd questions in the back of the book. We actually have a narrator that comes on and answer things in real time, explains how to answer it correctly, and then we can walk it back and provide them other questions so they can build up their skills and confidence. The automatic course sequencing is also critical. So students can go from one course to the next as they build up their skills. And then extensive reporting. So as an instructor, director, you'll be able to track and monitor all of the student success as they begin their journey in the app until they complete these career readiness courses. So here's a look at the work life skills course. You can see 1 through 29 are going to be the instruction. And then just like all of our courses, the final lesson is always a final challenge. All of the content is self-timed. So 1 through 29, students can work at their own pace, at their own leisure. 30 is going to be the only timed component. So when they work on 30, that's going to be timed for each one of the questions, and that's to get them ready for the work situation, for school situation, assessments, in-class tests. But 1 through 29, they work at their own pace, but they do get to jump around. So for English and math, it's sequenced. You need to know lesson 10 in order to do lesson 30. For a career readiness, that's not the case. And so we allow students to jump around and complete these. As a teacher, you do have the ability to override that and assign and say, hey, I really want you working on this lesson in particular. But otherwise, students will be able to jump around. And that way, if career planning is what you're working on, maybe in your classroom setting, or maybe that's what's relevant to the student today, they'll be able to jump into career planning. But the standard sequence you'll see here, we start out with basics: communication, work ethic and perseverance, adaptability, critical thinking, teamwork, and then diversity at the workplace, interacting and working with all kinds of coworkers, self-awareness, attitude and enthusiasm. Leadership is a great lesson. But the big ones, especially when we talk about interviewing, one of our most popular is this presentation and speaking. Preparing yourself for a job interview, presenting in a classroom, presenting yourself anywhere you might be. Networking is a big one today. One of the big challenges that you're probably hearing from a lot of your students, and we're hearing from students, is how difficult it is to get an interview. So much of the job application process is AI driven now. And so AIs are screening all of the resumes, and HR is only getting a select few. The ones that do get in, they're being screened again. And so the importance of networking, meeting people, getting out there, trying to bypass a lot of that automated side of it, and making personal relationships and personal connections. So that's a look at the course. Again, students will work through 1 through 29 and then take the final challenge. For those that are interested, today we're going to be focusing on our app, but we do have print materials in tandem with the app course as well. So with our partners at New Readers Press, we have these workbooks, and students will have access to the workbook, practice questions, instruction, the exact same sequence of lessons, just in print form. So if you are interested in looking at a workbook and getting samples, be more than happy to get you set up there. Send me an email. It's drew@learningupgrade.com. Vinod can put the email in the chat, and feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to get you connected and answer questions on the print materials for work-life skills.
At Mario's Pizza.
So now I'll play a brief demo here for the work-life skills, and then we'll talk about our digital literacy and finance.
The employees use teamwork to make sure the job is always done well. Alex and Marina work in the kitchen, while David and Anjali work as servers. They all are skilled in their roles and always trust each other to do a good job. When the restaurant gets busy, they always communicate clearly and respectfully to each other without getting frustrated. Daniela is the manager, who is always motivating the team and helping where she is needed in the restaurant. She reminds the team of the goals they are working towards and rewards them with parties or group events when goals are met. Good teamwork skills will help everyone to work together to the best of their abilities and get the job done.
A good team has teamwork. 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 A good team has teamwork. 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 A good team is dependable. They trust each other to get the job done. A good team has structure. Everyone knows the rules and roles. A good team communicates. People talk to each other with respect.
A good team has leaders that boost morale and motivate.
A good team has teamwork. Teamwork. Teamwork.
A good team has
Teamwork. Teamwork. Teamwork.
Read through this passage, then answer the questions about teamwork.
So there you can see the general flow of our lessons. They start out with spoken instruction. Then we take the instruction, put it in the form of a memorable song, keep the students engaged, and then they get the situational questions. So here we're going to present them a situation, and they're going to answer questions based on what they've read. And so the way the actual in-lesson works is you'll see here at the top, we have 0 points at 0%. Every single one of these lessons, you have to earn 100 points to pass. And then it depends on the difficulty of the questions, the point increments. So for some of the more quick and simple questions, it might be 5 points. For the more complicated, it could be 10, 15, or 20 points. And then once you get 100, you need 75% to earn a bronze medal for that lesson, 90% is a silver medal, and then 95% is a gold medal. And so that's how the scoring works on each one of the lessons. And then once they finish all of the lessons in a course, so in work-life skills, that would be all 30, then they'll earn a certificate, and that'll be bronze, silver, and gold as well. You'll get notifications for that in the learning management system, and then you can print those off and celebrate student success as they move through there. So that was work-life skills. Now we'll do a brief look at our digital literacy. And so digital literacy, there's a lot of courses popping up, different programs on this. And we have a very interesting way to teach it because we can actually do real-time learning, hands-on. Being an app, being on a laptop, phone, iPad, it's not just reading about what it is to interact with the technologies we're teaching. Students get to do it in real time. So whether that might be changing fonts in Microsoft Word, or maybe sorting a column in Google Sheets or Excel, we'll be able to teach those skills in real time. But then also soft skills, so as students transition into a workplace, maybe it's their first time working in an office setting. If I have a massive file that I need to share, is this something that I attach to my email, or do I upload it to the cloud and maybe share a link? And so the concept of share versus send, different things like cloud versus local. And so maybe I have this large file and I have it saved on my desktop. I need to understand that others in my organization will probably not be able to access that. That's something that needs to be in the cloud, create a link. And so these are part of our 60 lesson course that we'll touch on. So digital literacy, the ability to use information and communication tech to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, requiring both cognitive and technical skills. And so that last part is really the core of our course, both cognitive and technical skills. And we'll be getting into that now. So pretty obvious for most. It doesn't matter what job you have these days, it requires digital literacy. Even a job where the day-to-day doesn't have any technology baked in, almost guaranteed that all of the time cards, all of the scheduling, all of the healthcare, all of the benefits are going to be requiring digital literacy. And that's going to be something that's almost every job now. So in the job market, digital literacy requires a new skill set for a lot of our students that are alongside our traditional, our math and ELA tracks. The world of digital literacy is going to present a lot of new challenges, especially for students that maybe haven't been in the classroom for a while, haven't upskilled in a while, maybe haven't had a job in some time. So we want to make sure that these digital literacy skills are up to date, and that way students aren't just ready for the jobs of today, but also we talked about how quickly things are changing for jobs of tomorrow. And they have to be able to prepare not just to learn what's required today, but more importantly, understand how quickly things change and how important it is to not have a mindset that the technology I learned today will serve me in a year. The idea here is just to really let the students know technology is a constantly moving target, and to get used to just being comfortable with that, constantly learning, constantly adapting, and not being afraid to learn new things. It's important in the classroom as well. It's been a while since I was in grad school, but you could not schedule classes at that point without having access to a computer, and it requires a level of digital literacy, searching, filtering, finding the right classes, having an online calendar and an online schedule. And so again, for students that maybe haven't done that in some time, maybe it's their first time back in the classroom in a decade, that's going to be new. It's very difficult. Not all programs have the option to go to a counselor or somebody that can schedule for you. I've talked to a few teachers at programs that still do offer that, but there are quite a few now that aren't offering that, and they require digital literacy just to get started. Creating digital content is a requirement for online learning. So again, at the introductory side, it's going to be the Microsoft Office suite and alternatives. So, presentations, so a PowerPoint, being able to put together docs for writing paper, making sure things are formatted correctly, making sure that you know how to utilize a spreadsheet for organizing information. And so we'll be going over those. And then digital communication and collaboration. And digital literacy is going to provide learners with the skills to learn from anywhere. So that's important for a lot of our learners, especially in these tougher economic times for a lot of our students. And if they have full-time jobs, they have families, gas is expensive. Not everybody has access to personal transportation if you're relying on public transport. So being able to learn anywhere, if you are learning at home, for online classes, we want to make sure that everybody has the digital skills to make sure that's successful. So what makes our course different? Just like work life, high interest, songs, video, games, and animation, practice questions so they can put it to work right away. It's not some abstract paragraph they're reading on technology. They get to do it right away. It is aligned, North Star ISTE and the DQ standards. Not just hard skills, though. We also touch on some of the softer skills, things like digital citizenship, online safety, protecting your personal online reputation, net etiquette, how to interact on different platforms. So the way you present yourself on Instagram, you have to understand that when you apply for a job, everything that you do in that space is probably going to be seen by HR at whatever company that you're working for. So it's really important that our students know that. Not all do, and it's really unfortunate that some people aren't getting hired because of their digital footprint online. So we really want to make sure that they're treating that appropriately. Also teaches concepts, like I mentioned, cloud versus local, share versus send, best ways for group collaboration, automatic course sequencing. So we do have a sequence of courses, but students can jump around based on what works best for them. And so this is our course. This one is 60 lessons. There's a lot to teach in digital literacy. So we start out with basics. These are going to be a lot of things that we might take for granted. So the basics of using the internet, computers, phones, networks, app stores, search. Then we get some of the softer skills. So trust validity, cloud versus local content types, share versus send. This next bar is going to be a lot of things that are important, where we introduce students to topics that they'll probably want to pick up, a deep dive afterwards. So things like graphic creation. So for any of you that use things like Photoshop, everybody now uses programs like Canva and Figma. And so when you're putting together a presentation, you're putting together a slide deck, engaging imagery, pleasing imagery, if you need stock photos, whatever it might be, students need to understand all of the options there. Photo editing and photo creation. This numbers and spreadsheets, that's going to be the Google Sheets and Excel, working through there. Text creation, that's going to be stuff like Google Docs and Microsoft Word. As we get up into the next one, introductions to coding and programming. So maybe somebody, almost all of the learners we talk to, one of their goals is starting a small business. So a big part of that is, hey, you need a website, you need an online presence. Are you going to be selling things online? So we're not going to teach them in detail how to code, but we want to make sure that they have the fundamentals in understanding what they need to learn. So on your website, what's the difference between a front end and a back end? The front end being what the customer sees when they log in to your website, they visit your URL. And then for the back end, like let's say you do have inventory and you're selling certain things, or your visitors have to create an account. You need a database to store their account information. You need a database to store your inventory. If somebody purchases an object, that needs to be updated. And so we walk them through the basics of that. Some of the easier topics that are some of our most popular for a lot of our students is, hey, what is using email? All of us grew up on email as our primary online communication pathway. For a lot of our students, that's not the case. Very few have email addresses. And if they do, they don't even know what they are. It's like maybe they created a Gmail account to set up their Android device, but they don't use email as a form of communication. Almost all of that is done with text messaging, direct messages. Those ones they're very familiar with. Email, usually not as much. As we get into our yellow bar here, now it's going to be the net etiquette, digital identity, online relationships, protecting your devices, protecting your login credentials for banking and other things. Then we get into privacy, health protection, cyberbullying, privacy laws, advocacy. And then our top ones is preparing them for the future. So artificial intelligence. This one's gotten so big, we're actually creating an artificial intelligence course. Over the next year, that'll be in development, and that'll get students up to speed on everything that they need to know in this rapidly changing and evolving new world of AI. Global citizenship, the big one, calendars, setting up your school calendar, work calendar, life calendar, and then finally job search. One of the funny memes is for most of us, looking for, at my age at a job, then it's like, oh, your parents say, just go knock on doors. And we all know that's just not possible anymore. So we want to make sure that your students, when they're looking for jobs, they know how to do that online, create their resume, present themselves in the best possible way, and then that final challenge. And that'll test them on everything that they learned on 1 through 59. So now we'll get into a demo on digital literacy, and then we'll cover our finance and our health. Again, very similar to our work life, our partners at New Readers Press have a fantastic print companion for the app. So if you're looking to have print materials, teaches the exact same 60 lessons, 1 through 59, with a final challenge test at the end, a lot of practice questions, and then we also have the teacher's guide companion for that.
Sandra has to give a presentation at City Hall about adding bike lanes. She wants to collaborate with 2 of her friends on the presentation slides, but they both live far away. They all have internet access, but she cannot access the internet at City Hall. To get this done, Sandra needs to understand local and cloud documents. Local storage is when documents are saved directly on your computer or phone. You can access those files quickly and make changes without internet access. But because the file is on your device, you cannot access the information from a different device or work with other people to share, view, and edit the files. Cloud-based storage means that documents aren't saved to one device, but to a server that can be accessed from the internet. If you are working on a document that is saved to the cloud, you can access it from any device. Now, it's your turn to master cloud versus local. Where should we put this document?
All right, so there you got to look at cloud versus local. Students learn, it's a complex lesson for a lot that might be introduced to this topic for the first time. So we walk them through exactly what cloud and local are, give them some situations, when and where you would use each one. And then again, they get to go through practice questions and situations. So there's a document that lists usernames and passwords to some online accounts. Where should they store the document and why? And they get to go through those practice questions for each one. Again, in most cases, they'll be getting 20 to 30 questions for every lesson. And that way they get a chance to practice in real time and really show what they've learned. So we've covered our work-life skills and our digital literacy. One of the big ones now is financial literacy. So a lot of you as instructors and coordinators, directors of programs, see students come to your program. They have a goal of improving their life, getting a new job. So they improve their math, they improve their English. In some cases, they're going through your HSE track and getting that high school equivalency. Now they're ready for a job. So with these career readiness courses, we're getting them ready. To me, financial literacy is one of the most important. And the big reason for this is a lot of your students might be earning for the first time. Some might be new to the United States. And one of the really sad things is just the amount of predatory financial practices in this country. So we want to make sure for these students that they're not getting themselves into a lifetime of debt. They're not being taken advantage of on payday loans and high interest credit cards. And so when I go over this lesson list, you'll see exactly why and how it's so important to the lives of your students. And then one thing that makes our financial literacy unique is that we also cut out some time to teach about small business. And that's something that I talked about in digital literacy, but it's really critical because again, when we pull students and we talk to students that are in your programs, the number one thing that all of them have a dream to do is start their own business. And that business is different based on each student, but that's the dream and the goal. And so a sound fundamental base in financial literacy is critical for that. And I'll be talking about how we structured our lessons and how we prepare your students for that. But for those that aren't familiar, what is financial literacy? It's going to be the ability and the knowledge to understand and demonstrate financial skills. The key content areas here are earning, saving, investment, borrowing, budgeting, and then the big one is you accumulate assets through saving that you're able to protect those. These principles are going to provide a roadmap for sound money management and a foundation for a healthy financial future. Financial literacy is the skills that mean having the confidence, knowledge, and skills needed to make financial decisions that promote financial self-sufficiency, stability, and well-being. And these skills include the ability to effectively locate, evaluate, and use information. Again, this is a critical one. It ties into digital literacy a lot, but for anybody that has polled your students on how many have bank accounts, it's amazing how few do. And that's one of those things when they're holding on to cash in these high inflationary times, a lot of them don't understand how you're losing money if you're not getting interest on your cash. And so these are things where, how do you get a bank account? How do you access a bank account? How do you access assets that are interest bearing? That requires digital literacy. So you'll see why we present these all together. And these skills include the ability, again, to locate, evaluate, use information, resources, and services, and to make informed decisions about financial obligations. So paying bills, preparing for the future. Maybe students have kids that want to go to college, budgeting, credit, debt, and the planning. So why it's important, I think most of us intuitively know why this is. But again, when you get into the details of it, people with financial literacy are less vulnerable to things like fraud, Ponzi schemes, predatory lending, and high-risk investments. Financial literacy is going to help people achieve expensive life goals. So again, if you want to start a business, it's not just the upfront cost of starting a business. Maybe you need a work truck. What are the best ways to finance that? How do you keep yourself from getting different levels of liability? And that is going to be dependent on how you incorporate your business. Debt freedom, college and retirement savings. Financial products are also becoming widespread. So when I first started investing, it required interacting with some form of a broker. As we all know now, you can download apps and purchase crypto in about 30 minutes. And so without the financial literacy to understand what's a good sound investment, what's a historically sound investment versus what's a high risk investment, that's going to require financial literacy to protect them. In 2021, the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco reported that only 20% of purchases were made with cash. I've been looking for data on this for 2025, and it wasn't from the Federal Reserve, but the number I saw was that's down to around 10%. So very few purchases are being made with cash. Almost all purchases are digital. And the reason that's important is because purchasing has become frictionless. If you go onto Amazon, what do you see? Click with one button. You go to Walmart's app, one click to pay. Everything's goal is to make purchasing frictionless, so you spend more of your money. Whether you need the item or not, everything online is being marketed to you as an urgent purchase. Whether you're on social media and every fifth image is now an ad with a click here, buy now. It's important for our students as they start getting their feet under them with a new job, maybe their first stable paycheck, that they are not being taken advantage of and losing those resources. People with financial literacy are less likely to take on unmanageable debt burdens due to poor spending and planning. And having this knowledge results in less bankruptcy. It also helps students avoid poor credit. So we actually have a credit lesson where the students go through practice questions on things like, okay, I would like to buy a car and I've gone and had my credit run at a car dealership. How does that affect my credit score? I haven't paid my credit card bill. I'm late on my credit bill. How does that affect my credit score? I've paid 6 bills on time for my credit card. Okay, that's going to have a positive impact. So a lot of our students have no clue that there is a credit score, how they're managed, what you can do to improve your credit score. But most importantly, if you want to do something like start a small business, you actually have to have good credit. Otherwise, you're going to get a loan with high interest, or you're going to have to take on a loan from a less reputable bank or a less reputable institution. So it's important that our students see how all of these things are tied together. It also helps them avoid things like foreclosures or evictions if you're not paying your rent, not paying your mortgage, and tax delinquency. The Federal Reserve found that a quarter of Americans have no retirement savings. This is an important one. That number, unfortunately, is inching up as well. Half lack funds to cover 3 months of wages. 37% don't have $2,000 for an emergency. And 43% use payday loans, pawn shops, and other expensive financial services. Now, in some cases, our students have no other choice. And, in those situations, we, can't really do a lot. But in some cases, they do have other options. And so it's our job as education providers, as content creators, that they have the education to make the most informed decision based on their situation. So with financial literacy, our goal is to get them up to speed on all of these topics, and that way they can have as healthy of a financial future as possible. So the way we do that is with these 6 content areas. So planning is a big one, setting a budget. And so we have lessons where they're going through situations on how do you set a budget? How do you allocate money? What's the most important thing? What do you pay first? If you're looking at things like rent, you're buying food, you're putting gas in the car to go to work. And so I'll play a song, one of the lessons that helps students kind of, frame their mindset on how to look at their monthly take home and see what it looks like to allocate things to what they want, what they need, and then, planning for the future. Earning, so different job types, receiving wages and pay stubs. This is a big one. A lot of people in the, the gig economy or the grind set economy, a lot of, if you're a 1099 employee versus a W-2, if you're doing gigs, some people are maybe receiving cash. So it's important to know earning, what that looks like, benefits and things that are attached with different job types. Spending, so credit cards, mobile payments, rent, and insurance. Savings, again, a lot of our students don't have bank accounts. Some are using, some that we talk to are taking cash or checks and getting them cashed at convenience stores, not realizing that there is a way to do that without taking a 5 to 8% hit on your paycheck every time you go to cash it. And so the importance of bank accounts for things like that, retirement, and then borrowing. So in cases where you don't have the resources available to take care of the short-term financial obligations, taking on loans, buying a car versus leasing a car, buying a home versus renting a home, financing for education, and then small business. So starting up, bookkeeping, how important accounting is for tax purposes, financials, and then sales and marketing. So how do you get your business out there, get on Yelp, creating, Google business. You want people to be aware of that. A lot of that ties into digital literacy. So that content creation side, with the coding lesson, getting a website going, the two courses go hand in hand. And so it's really important for students to do both if they are looking at that small business future. So you can see how we teach these. Again, the basics are up front, getting students introduced to these concepts. And we want them to go through a lot of practice questions. It really helps them understand, because a lot of these concepts can be difficult to grasp on first approach. So when you're going through things like credit, again, we have practice questions where they see in real time what happens to their credit score given different circumstances. Then looking at credit cards and calculating interest. It's important for students that haven't calculated interest to understand what compounding interest does. On the negative side, if you're borrowing money on your credit card, it's terrible. But if you're saving money for the future, it's a beautiful thing. And so compounding interest can really be the yin and yang of finance for a lot of students. And we want to make sure that they're putting that to their advantage on the positive side. So our approach to financial literacy is lots and lots of practice on these new concepts. So you'll see at the very top, if Tana's health insurance increases by $500 monthly, which will be true. So not an easy thing to do, to look at these tables here, looking at your actual take home versus your budgeted take home, looking at your needs, your wants, your goals. And that's one of the reasons that's, Learning Upgrade is unique, because a lot of students that might want to learn about financial literacy, they might not have the math skills to jump in and start calculating interest. But that's why we have our math, basic through algebra. So if they do need to go in and take a few lessons to bring their math skills up to speed, they can do that. English skills as well. Some students might need to brush up on English to interact in the financial institutions of the United States. So we have our ESL track. They go through English and math, get up to that NRS 4 or 5, and that's when they're going to be ready to take on these skill courses. They jump in, and now they have that full pathway to success there. So now we'll take a look at our financial literacy. We have a lesson, and then we'll close out with our health.
Let's plan your finances. 50, 30, 20. Got to spend your money wisely. 50, 30, 20. Got to spend your money wisely.
Take 50% of what you earn and spend it on what you need. Like paying for your car and your home and your bills and your food and your groceries. Then 30% of what you earn goes into what you want. Like entertainment, buying clothes, or fancy restaurants. The last 20% is set aside for your financial goals. Savings for an emergency fund, pay debts and investments, now you're done.
50, 30, 20. Got to spend your money wisely. 50, 30, 20. Got to spend your money wisely. Yeah.
All right, so that 50, 30, 20 gets students ready. Last thing we're going to cover here is our health literacy course. Before we do our brief coverage on this new course, for those that weren't there at the very beginning, we have a link to our free pilot. So if you'd like to bring Learning Upgrade, the Career Readiness courses to your program, you get a free pilot through CoABE here. And then we also have new CoABE pricing for our site-wide licenses, hugely discounted. So for those that would like to provide all of your students access to not just the Career Readiness, but the English, Math, ABE, HSE, everything we have, you can reach out to me, Drew, DREW at learningupgrade.com, and I'll be able to get you set up with a quote. So we have both offers for CoABE members attending the webinar. So health literacy, it's the ability to find, understand, and use information to make informed decisions about your health. It goes beyond simply reading medical instructions or knowing basic health facts. And one of the drivers for us creating this course was just how many times we heard students going through our English, our ESL track, to better understand and navigate the complex health system in this country, and then going through the digital literacy side to understand the complex digital literacy requirements to get patient portals set up, to understand how to find your prescriptions, change which pharmacy you're getting prescriptions at. It's a very complex system. It requires literacy on the English side. It also requires digital literacy. So he said, you know what, let's just put together a health literacy course that'll get students upskilled to navigate a very complex system here. So the reason it's important, people with strong health literacy are less likely to fall victim to medical misinformation, unsafe treatments, and fraudulent health products. It also empowers individuals to make informed choices about nutrition, exercise, preventative care, and treatment options. The systems are becoming increasingly complex, require patients to understand insurance coverage, medical bills, digital health records. Something that should be simple, let me go in and get treated for something that's ailing me, becomes a real headache. And I've yet to meet somebody that doesn't know this firsthand. We've all experienced it. In 2022, the Department of Health and Human Services reported that 9 out of 10 adults struggle with understanding and using health information. I'm one of those 9 out of 10. People with high health literacy are more likely to follow prescribed treatments, attend checkups, recognize early signs of illness, and that's going to reduce hospitalizations, complications, but also medical costs. And the CDC reports that limited health literacy is linked to higher rates of chronic disease, preventable hospital visits, and billions of dollars in avoidable healthcare costs each year. One of the number one, again, this ties into our financial literacy, number one things people go bankrupt for is medical expenses. So again, in some cases, there's nothing they can do, but hopefully we can provide them with some skills and some knowledge for those that can get in early and avoid that. So here's our 30-lesson course. I'm gonna have Vinod just jump in here for a couple minutes and give a brief overview on the course and the lessons.
Yeah, thanks much, Drew. We've been working on health literacy for 2 years. This is so exciting to finally have it out in the world. And we have a lot of people jumping in and having their students enrolled in it. So in the beginning, we're teaching the 4 basics: nutrition, exercise, sleep, relaxation. We get into personal hygiene, washing hands, oral hygiene. Mental health and substance abuse, huge today. And we define it, and we also show you how to reach out for help. We get into women's health, menstrual hygiene, maternal health and having a child health, what you do for child visits, everything else. Sexual health covers safe sex and family planning. And then we have things like understanding the healthcare system. Well, what's an urgent care? What's an emergency room? What's a pediatrician versus an OB doctor? We teach about a lot of different kinds of diseases and medical tests, and we get into immunization. So it's a pretty comprehensive course, and we're really excited to get your feedback and have you start putting students on. This is ready today. All right, thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Vinod.
Nutrition.
And so I'll play a brief video of nutrition, and then we'll close out here.
Nutrition. Check out the mix. Check out this healthy mix. My nutrition is balanced. Check out this healthy mix. My nutrition is balanced. Bread, pasta, rice, those are carbohydrates. Mix them in nice, storing up your energy to use later on. Eggs, meat, beans, let's mix in some proteins. Building up your muscles and bones, making them strong. Milk, butter, and oil are fats. How about mixing in that? They give you energy and help absorb vitamins. I need some fiber, get me those grains, fruits, and vegetables. Helping your digestion, now the mix is the best there is. Check out this healthy mix. My nutrition is balanced. Check out this healthy mix. My nutrition is balanced.
All right, so that's everything on the 4 career readiness courses that we are going to cover today. The rest of the slides in this deck, they'll be COAB will be sharing. We won't cover them today, but for those that do have questions on our English, on our math, our HSE, I just add some extra slides in here so you can go through these. The other option, which I actually advise, is you have my email in the chat, Drew, DREW at learningupgrade.com. Reach out and we can set up a training. So if you are a program that says, hey, I'd love to use your career readiness, but I'd also love to use your English, math, and other courses, how do we do that? What does that look like? We can always set up a quick 30, 60-minute Zoom session, or I can just send you over a slide deck or some instructions on how to do that. But again, everybody on the call today gets a pilot. Fill out that form and you'll get going. You'll have access to all of these slides that cover our different content areas that'll have information there. As part of the pilot, you'll get an LMS login, and that'll walk you through things like how to get students onboarded, how to look at reports, how to track student progress as they journey from beginning in English and math, career readiness. We'll be able to give you all the details that you need. We're also approved in multiple states for distance learning. So one of the big ones is we just got approved by TCAL in Texas for all of our courses. But if you're in a state where you're looking for distance learning reimbursement, let us know. I'm pretty sure we're approved in almost all of them now. And so that's an option for those of you looking there. And then the last thing is just best practices. So, here we are, first month. So today's the intro to training on career readiness. Goal is to get your pilot to you. So fill that form out. You'll get an email from us with your username. You'll set up your password, and there'll be instructions on creating student accounts. Again, we provide free training for every single one of you. So take advantage of it. It's super easy to start on your own. You can do so in 10 minutes with our in-LMS training. But if you have unique use cases or you'd like to introduce this to 10 other staff members, let's get on Zoom quickly and I can help you get everything going. Students will log in. You can have them take career readiness right away, or you can take advantage of our in-app assessment. We can let you know their exact English and math levels today, and then you can track and monitor the progress of that as they enjoy the accelerated growth in the app. You'll track and monitor their progress, and then at the end of the pilot, we can get together, or you can do so in the LMS and evaluate student growth. All of these deployment models are available to you. Pretty standard one is just get the students enrolled and let them play. But if you'd like to add a little wrinkle in, a little special sauce to those, let's set up a Zoom. I can go over how all of our best blended learning programs do it. If you're looking at fully remote, libraries and literacy centers that do tutor-based, learning circles, so utilizing WhatsApp to create WhatsApp groups and getting students engaged there. 2Gen learning if you're working with youth and adults. Again, it's free to start, very affordable to grow. Timeline, again, get started here in August. September, October, track and monitor student growth, celebrate their success as they navigate through our English, math, and career readiness courses. We'll evaluate your learning upgrade pilot as we transition into the Thanksgiving, early winter timeframe. In December, we'll get you set up to continue with learning upgrade with our COAB specials for site-wide licensing. And then in April, we'll be at COAB in Indianapolis. I hope a lot of you will be there as well and get a chance to meet everyone in person. We'll be doing a few presentations there. We'll be at the New Readers Press booth. And I know it seems like a long way away, but every year the conference season always sneaks up on us. So love to have you go through the pilot and then meet in person in Indianapolis. Looks like it was a very active chat today. Thank you everyone for attending, everyone for participating. Thank you to COAB and Steve especially for jumping in with those great quotes. There is a poll here. This is super helpful to COAB, super helpful to us. Was the webinar beneficial? Did it meet your expectations? So before you hop off, you could just answer those poll questions. We would greatly appreciate it. And otherwise, thank you for attending. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we look forward to working with you in the months ahead.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Vinod. If you could take the poll before you leave. And again, thank you, Steve, for answering all of those questions in the chat. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day.